Hello, today's lecture is on structuralism in literature. Now, there are a lot of ways to examine any literary text. Some of them are pretty obvious, and you've heard before. Feminism is a very popular field of study now, so you could look at things from a feminist angle, or Marxist angle might be to look at how at the class structures and at how that informs the literature, right? Or how the literature informs our understandings of class structure. So there's lots of different ways. Actually, it goes well beyond that. One of the ones that we're going to be looking at today is structuralism. And I would say that, well, it is what it sounds like, except that would be the exact opposite of what structuralism actually believes, which is that there is no inherent meaning to words. So structuralism is a linguistic and anthropological theory. It's mainly linguistic in nature. The idea is that words don't have meaning. They don't mean anything except from what we have decided, what we have all agreed that they mean. For example, as the text points out, as Kirshner and Mendel point out, just because chat and gato and cat kind of sound similar doesn't mean they're the same word. They do signify kind of the same thing. But then if you go to Japan, it's going to be neko. It's going to be a different word. So this seems pretty obvious, pretty common sense, right? Different languages are going to have different words for things. But it's not, it gets much more complicated than that. We have to first get the language then, right? The terminology down for us, which is that words are signs. They mean something else. They don't actually have that meaning unless we agree on the meaning. Beyond that, the words are also part of a larger system that we have to agree on. We have to agree on the meaning of language in general. And for us, I mean, that gets a little weird to understand because it's pretty meta. But for us as literary scholars, we're going to look at not only what the words mean, but what the context of those words are, or what the context is. You know, are those words arranged in prose? Are they arranged in poetry? This can get kind of complicated when you look at something modernist like William Carlos Williams' The Red Wheelbarrow. Let's take a look at that. Here it is. They mentioned this in the text. I wouldn't even know how to recite this because it looks like a poem. It definitely, the structuralist in me wants to immediately look at it and say, well, it's got the kind of form of a poem. I guess I should put on my poetic glasses when I analyze it. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rain water beside the white chickens. That sounds like a horrible reading to me. Honestly, it does. Maybe it's really just so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. That seems like a much better reading, and I'm sure there are much better still out there. The point is, it reads more like prose. I'm getting a little bit off the topic here, but I want to make sure that we get back into this. We are understanding this as a poem because he has arranged it as a poem. So that's a kind of literal demonstration of what we mean by structuralism, but it is more conceptual than that. As they point out in the book, if we didn't know that it was a poem, if it was just written so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow as one line, then we wouldn't necessarily give it any more meaning than what it is. So that gets to the next point that they're trying to make here, which is that, as structuralists will tell you, art or literature, well, art, there you go, it's right in the word, literature has no inherent meaning. It is artificial. Literature is artificial. It's not natural. It's created. It's constructed. So it's not like everyday language where it's trying to relay data. It's trying to do something more than just give you information. Consider this clip, or consider this reading of Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Richard Burton.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, Because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Okay, so obviously you can hear from Burton's reading. I wanted to give it to somebody who could read with a little bit more gravitas than I'm able to conjure up. You can hear from Richard Burton's reading of it that there's more to this than just the information of, hey, don't give up the ghost so easy, fight a little bit more. He could have just said it that way. Why arrange it as a villanelle? Why structure it that way to begin with? Why write it as a poem to begin with? He's trying to conjure up some other meaning. He's trying to conjure up some other values. Those words are working as signs, but they're being artificially constructed to skew those signs, right? To give it something more unique. Okay, so this gives rise to another idea, right? If you have one theory, you're going to have either another theory come up in opposition to it, or you're going to have a theory that comes up as kind of an extension of it. You could say that the opposition to this, not really the opposition, but the kind of yin to this is yang. I'm making up words there. It might be new criticism. The new criticism approach, this is developed in the 40s and 50s and isn't really used as much anymore, but it's a great introduction. It's a great way to introduce people to analyzing literature. The new critical approach means, don't worry about everything outside, the actual text, or outside the front and back cover of the book, right? Just analyze what's in it, and it's not related to anything else. Now, I am kind of blurring the lines in the definitions between new criticism and structuralism. It's not quite as simple as I'm making it out to be, but there's a little bit of difference there that's pretty stark. Now, post-structuralism is more like embracing the structuralist ideas and running with it a little bit further to say that, like, really, to study any literary text is to study a shifting system of signs, that the words are constantly changing value and constantly changing meaning. Every generation is interpreting it in a different way. Every person is bringing another meaning to it. Now I'm getting into reader response theory, and again, that can get kind of fuzzy too. But post-structuralism is essentially saying that, if you're going to analyze a poem, then you're basically analyzing poetry. And if you're analyzing poetry, then you're analyzing art. So each one of these things is encased in other meanings.